Just want to start off by saying how honored and humbled I am to be sharing the same stage as Dr. Ko and David Kim. Both are people that I've looked up to for many years as my role models. Dr. Ko is someone whose career I've followed from afar, and through his brother, Harold Ko, who was my dean at Yale Law School. And both of them had enormous influence over me in terms of the aspirations that I could see for someone like myself. David was one of the first people I befriended when I moved to DC 7 years ago, and he helped connect me to a broader network of Korean Americans and develop my interest in serving that community through public service. So for me to be recognized along with these two vastly influential people in my life is more meaningful to me than I could possibly express. And I'd like to thank both of them for shaping not only my life, but the lives of so many people in our community. I also want to thank KEI for not only giving me this recognition, but also sparing me some embarrassment. Usually when I give a speech, they'll put a giant half-naked picture of me from Survivor in the background, which is always embarrassing because people are inevitably disappointed that I look a lot smaller in real life. Anyway, I started my new job at the Federal Communications Commission 3 months ago, and even now, people will still recognize me, although not quite in the way that you would expect. At least once a week, and this just happened to me, someone will come up to me and start looking at me. Like, hey, aren't you that Asian guy? What Asian guy? Aren't you that Asian guy on TV? On the island? Yeah, I guess so. I knew it. Dude, you rock, man. Well, thanks. So you actually saw the show? Yeah, I love that show. I've seen every episode of Lost. Dude, Jim is the bomb. Yeah, actually, that's not me. I'm sorry. I think you're talking about Daniel Day Kim. See, I was the Asian guy on Survivor. Survivor? No, that's not you. Well, no, it's me. I won. Nah, you can't be that guy, Survivor. Well, why not? Because that guy was huge. Anyway, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about my experiences growing up as a Korean American and how they led me to where I am today. And I'll start by answering the question that people always ask me. Why in God's name did you ever apply to be on a reality show? The truth is that I actually didn't apply. I got recruited. And the reason I got recruited was the season of Survivor I was on was extremely controversial because they decided to divide the contestants into racial tribes. So in other words, they had a Caucasian tribe, an African American tribe, a Latino tribe, and an Asian American tribe. The producers also had trouble getting enough minorities to apply for the show, so they had to recruit almost all of us, especially the Asian Americans. They found Becky Lee, who's a Korean American attorney here in DC, by looking on MySpace for hot Asian chicks. And they found me because another person dropped out at the last minute and they needed to find a replacement to fill the quota. And when I got the call, I actually wasn't too thrilled about it. Like a lot of Korean American kids, I grew up in a very traditional family that pushed academics above everything else. My parents came to this country so that my brother and I could have a better life. They didn't want us wasting our time by playing sports, or dating, or having a social life. They just wanted us to study. My parents taught me that smart kids got PhDs and became professors, while dumb kids dropped out of school and became actors. So the idea of going on television for me was this vaguely shameful thing, and I didn't want to do it. I was scared that I'd do something stupid to ruin my career, hurt the image of Asian Americans in this country, and worst of all, replace William Hung as the icon of Asian American deviance. What made me reconsider, though, is that ever since I became an adult, I've been bothered by the lack of Asian American representation in American media. When I was a kid, my parents encouraged my brother and I to watch television so that we could learn English. But I hardly ever saw anyone who looked like me. And whenever I did see an Asian American actor on television, they were typically portrayed according to these negative stereotypes. If I saw Asian women, they're usually shown as being these submissive sexual servants or exotic dragon ladies. If I saw an Asian man on television, he was inevitably a computer geek who couldn't get a date, or a kung fu master who could kick butt but he couldn't speak English. And the sad and scary thing is that I internalized all of these images, and it really shaped the way that I looked at myself. I did all the typical Asian guy stuff. I studied, I wrote computer programs, and I kept running away from girls because I was too scared to talk to them. I eventually became that weird Korean kid that all the other kids made fun of because they didn't understand all the strange little customs in our house. Like why my mom wrapped all the remote controls in plastic wrap. Or why we had a second refrigerator in the garage with kimchi. Or why we never used our dishwasher to actually wash dishes. Now, when I was a kid, my mom always told me that using the dishwasher was really expensive. So in our house, we used it once a year, on Christmas Day. And I remember the first time that one of my Caucasian friends invited me over to dinner at his house. We finished dinner, his mom cleared the plates, and she started using the dishwasher. And I totally freaked out. I was like, what are you doing? It's not Christmas! And my friend was saying, we use our dishwasher every single day. So I ran home and I said, Mom, white people are so cool. They have Christmas every day. It wasn't until I got to high school that I realized how much my identity was defined by these images in the media that I bought into. And then one day I took a hard look at myself and I decided that I didn't want to be that stereotypical Asian geek. So I started pushing myself out of my comfort zone and putting myself into situations that made me uncomfortable, like public speaking or taking leadership roles or asking girls out on dates. And I started what became a commitment to trying to overcome my fears so that whenever there was something I was too afraid to do, I would force myself to try. But even then, it took me a long time to develop the confidence in myself and to be proud of who I was. And I think that the lack of positive images in the media had a lot to do with that. So when the opportunity to be on Survivor came up, I remember thinking to myself, how long might it be before another Asian American man has a chance to appear in a major television role where he's not speaking with an accent or depicted as a foreigner? And maybe I can try to break some of these stereotypes. Maybe I can be the kind of role model that I didn't have when I was growing up. And maybe I can help the next generation of kids from my community avoid some of the self-doubt that I struggled with when I was their age. Once I showed up for my interviews, it became pretty obvious that the show was casting for stereotypes. In my case, it was pretty clear that they were casting me as the overachieving Asian nerd. And how do I know this? Well, they told me when I showed up for the interviews, wear glasses and wear a suit. So, well, why do I have to wear glasses if I wear contacts? And why do I have to wear a suit if I'm going to be running around half naked at an island or something? They said, just do it. And when I showed up, out of 20 guys, I was the only one wearing glasses and a suit. But it was my final interview with Mark Burnett, who's a creative survivor, that showed me how uninformed people are in this country about our community. When I walked into the room, and this is something that I'm sure many of you can relate to, the first question he asked me was, so, where are you from? I said, I'm from San Francisco. No, where are you really from? I'm really from San Francisco. But if you're asking me what ethnicity I am, I'm Korean. So he goes, really? Wow, I just learned the craziest thing. I just found that the Koreans and Chinese and Japanese don't always like each other. What's up with that? So I said, well, there's this whole history between these countries. Do you really want to explain it? He goes, yeah. So for literally the first 10 minutes, I gave him a history lesson on East Asian politics. After I'm done, he goes, okay, now, are you from North Korea or South Korea? Actually, I'm from San Francisco. But, my parents are from South Korea. See, North Korea, it's like this communist country, right? They don't just let people leave.